You might think deserts are desolate places where nothing of note can be found, but archaeologists are stumbling upon valuable treasures in the vast, barren landscapes of our world, and many of their finds are the last things you'd expect to find in a desert. Today we'll be taking a look at some of the most interesting discoveries made in deserts. Enjoy the show. A pile of video games. While excavating a landfill in New Mexico, some documentary filmmakers unearthed hundreds of E.T. the Extraterrestrial video game cartridges produced by Atari. Numbering around 800,000, these cartridges were considered the worst video game ever made and led to the company's downfall in the 1980s. The game was hastily designed to coincide with Steven Spielberg's 1982 hit film E.T., but failed to meet expected standards. Atari, the game's maker, had to secretly bury the cartridges in a 10-meter deep pit on a 300-acre site in the New Mexico desert. They paid the Alamogordo government to help them dump the cartridges in the city's landfills. After the games disappeared, Atari denied claims that they knew where they were or what had happened to them. The cartridges attained legendary status over time, and a years-long mystery was solved when the games were discovered. Desert treasure. Miners unearthed the wreckage of a 500-year-old Portuguese ship filled with gold coins in the Namib Desert in April 2008. The miners, who were working for De Beers, a diamond company, said the gold was worth about $11 million. Found in a dried-up pond, the wreckage turned out to be from the ship Bom Jesus, which set sail from Lisbon to India in 1533. Mysteriously disappeared with all its crew near Oranjemund, Namibia's diamond mining town. While the gold coins were the highlight of the discovery, there were also notable elements such as religious artifacts, clothing, and the remains of sailors. All of this provided some insight into the time period in which the ship was wrecked. For example, the bones gave archaeologists an idea of how sailors of the time ate. The Bom Jesus was one of several shipwrecks discovered in recent years on the fringes of the desert. The oldest was the hull of the Vlissingen, which ran aground in Namibia's Miob Bay in 1747. Horned kangaroos. In 2003, the first whole skulls of horned kangaroos were found in the Nullarbor Desert in Australia. Previously, John Long and his team from the Western Australian Museum had found partial skull fragments of the horned kangaroo and the first complete skeletons of a giant marsupial lion known as Thylacoleo in their first dig in the region in 2002. When the team carried out the new dig, they discovered 2 whole horned kangaroo skulls and their partial skeletons, as well as 2 Thylacoleo skeletons and fossils of 3 new kangaroo species. The dig site is estimated to be between 200,000 and 500,000 years old, but its exact age can only be determined by radiometric dating. Ancient kangaroos lived in various parts of ancient Australia, especially in the Nullarbor region. 50% of all skeletal remains found in the region belong to these kangaroos. Horned kangaroos are distinguished by their front teeth, which have a thick layer of enamel. Skeletons with the same teeth as ancient kangaroos have also been found on the York Peninsula and in a region in northern South Australia. Missing pieces. New fragments of a collection of manuscripts dating back nearly 2,000 years have been discovered in the Cave of Horror near the western shore of the Dead Sea. This discovery has rekindled the troubled history of the Dead Sea Scrolls. Dating back to between the 3rd century BC and the 1st century AD, the Dead Sea Scrolls are a series of religious manuscripts first discovered in the Qumran caves in the Judean desert in 1946. They are of great historical, religious, and linguistic significance as they contain some of the oldest known texts of the Bible. The new fragments were found thanks to a project by the Israel Antiquities Authority to search for new manuscripts. The cave where the scrolls were found was named the Cave of Horror because of the large number of skeletons found inside. In addition to the skeletons, personal documents, a fragmented copy of a prayer written in Hebrew, and the scroll to which these fragments belonged were apparently hidden at the back of the cave for safekeeping. An unexpected discovery. Two scientists from New Zealand's National Institute of Water and Atmospheric Research found a working USB stick while working on the country's South Island. The USB stick was found in the droppings of a leopard seal that had been sitting in the institute's freezer since November 2017. Several volunteers pulled out the sample for the researchers to examine. The researchers found photos of sea lions, a video of a seal swimming in the background, and someone kayaking with their pup on the stick. We know that USB sticks are small and therefore easily lost, but we don't know who could have dropped this one in the desert. The researchers have been eagerly awaiting the owner of the USB stick to come forward since the day of the discovery. Mysterious patterns. Google Maps has captured images of a series of mysterious structures and patterns etched into the surface of the Gobi Desert in China. Some experts have speculated that these patterns are used by China's spy and radar satellites. The patterns were in the form of a grid of white lines, zigzagging randomly. Jonathan Hill, a research technician at the University of Arizona's Mars Space Flight Facility, suggested that the patterns, which are about 1,000 meters wide and 2,000 meters long, are used by satellite cameras to orient themselves in space. Hill based this view on the white cross found in Casa Grande, Arizona, which was used by the U.S. military in the 1960s to locate Corona spy satellites. Some experts claimed that these lines indicate that military tests were being conducted in the region. This theory was also supported by other mysterious images showing the movement of the structures, all pointing to the presence of military tests. A strange constellation-like pattern once appeared in Egypt, and many concluded that it was not man-made, but created by aliens. A gift from the Sahara. An 18-meter wooden boat, untouched by the sands of the Sahara for over 4,500 years, has been discovered in the ancient Egyptian necropolis of Abydos. Although the pieces made with cedar planks were stuffed with plant material, the ship managed to remain intact. In ancient Egypt, it was common practice for royalty to be buried with their vehicles. What surprised archaeologists was that this magnificent boat was found in the tomb of a commoner. This was incredible because the boat was made of extremely expensive, imported wood. But who did the boat belong to? About 12 meters south of the boat, inside a large underground chamber, there was a stone bowl. It bore the inscription of King Huni from the 3rd dynasty. This indicated that the tomb belonged to a high-ranking official who served at that time. Although the person's name or title could not be found, the boat itself confirmed that the tomb owner had an extraordinary status during his lifetime. The discovery of this boat will allow researchers to learn more about ancient Egyptian seafaring and shipbuilding techniques. Mysterious lake. Have you heard the story of the mysterious lake in the Tunisian desert? Imagine living in the middle of the desert and coming across a body of water on the arid desert path you always take. You probably wouldn't believe your eyes. Located in a canyon 25 kilometers from the city of Gafsa in Tunisia, attraction. Hundreds of locals, amazed at how the lake appeared, flocked to what soon became known as Lac de Gafsa, or Gafsa Beach. Despite warnings that the water could contain carcinogenic chemicals and possibly be radioactive, people rushed to the lake to swim. It didn't take long for the initially turquoise water to turn cloudy green, but that didn't seem to bother the locals much. There were different opinions about the mysterious appearance of the lake. For some, it was a miracle. For others, a curse. The lake was first seen by a citizen named Mehdi Bilal while returning from a wedding in the north of the country, who thought it was a miracle. We hope those who swam in the lake did not experience any discomfort. Communication in the middle of nowhere. A phone booth has been discovered in the middle of nowhere in California's Mojave Desert. The booth is known to have been first built in 1948 for miners in the area. The phone continued to be maintained until it was decommissioned in 2000. A nice tombstone adorned with ceramic tiles was erected as a badge of honor at the spot where the phone booth once stood. The person who discovered the existence of the Mojave phone booth was a man named Godfrey Daniels, surprised to see the effort put into bridging the real and digital worlds in the desert. Curious, the man decided to check if the phone was still working. He kept dialing the keys until one day he got a busy signal. At that point, it was understood that the phone was working, and after a while the busy signal gave way to ringing. A woman named Laureen answered the phone on the other end. She was a miner living away from the city. This call made Daniels realize that the phone was real. Daniels then returned home and set up a website dedicated to the Mojave phone booth, where he posted the phone number he had contacted. Daniels did all this before the phone booth was removed in 2000. Social pool. Would it ever occur to you that there could be a pool in the middle of the desert? An artist named Alfredo Barsuglia designed a pool, which he called the social pool, and brought his design to life in the desert. The artist described the pool as a work of art and a social experiment. The 3 by 1.5 meter pool is not the kind of pool you can party in or swim comfortably in. It's also quite difficult to get to. The pool is a long walk from the nearest paved road, and there are no paths or signs to show where it is. In addition, only a few people are allowed to use the pool at a time, and visitors are required to fill it with a gallon of fresh water after using it. On the bright side, the pool has a solar-powered water filter. Barsuglia sees his work as a humor-infused example of a culture that sees art as instant gratification. The artist offers a luxury pool open to all, but requires its users to go to great lengths to find it. What do you think about this? Would you embark on a challenging adventure to find the artistic pool? The abandoned domes of Casa Grande. Casa Grande, Arizona is famous for its historic Sonoran desert ruins, but there are also dome-shaped structures in the area that attract many visitors. These eerie structures have the air of having fallen from space into the desert. Over time, rumors have surfaced that illegal activities have taken place in the area, as well as UFO and ghost sightings, but the reality is debatable. The domes were built using abandoned buildings, giant balloons, foam and concrete in a desert south of Phoenix. However, because the buildings were left empty, the concrete eroded significantly. Holes also began to form in the ceilings and walls. All of this may be why some people have made up various ghost stories and suggested that illegal activities are taking place. The structures were built by Intercon Technology, a computer circuit board manufacturer, with the intention of moving their company from California to Phoenix. Unfortunately, the company was unable to move into the newly built center. After spending approximately $150,000 on each building, they were unable to pay off the loan, and the bank foreclosed on the company's property in 1984. The domes still maintain their eerie presence in the desert. Never-ending music. If there's one thing that will last forever, it's probably the music currently playing in the middle of the Namib Desert in South Africa. The 55-million-year-old Namib Desert, the oldest desert in the world. Toto's catchy 1982 song Africa is currently playing in the desert. Go see for yourself if you don't believe it. An artist named Max Siedentopf placed an MP3 player with a single song and 6 speakers in the middle of the desert. The speakers play Toto's famous 4-minute, 56-second song over and over again. The speakers are solar-powered, so the music never stops. Unless some natural disaster destroys the speakers, or someone comes and takes them away, the music will play forever. Siedentopf said he chose extremely durable materials for the speakers to withstand the harsh desert winds. The most interesting part is that nobody knows the exact location of the speakers. So if you go to the Namib Desert and find these speakers, you can count yourself as having achieved something remarkable. Slab City. Slab City is an isolated desert community located in a remote part of the Sonoran Desert on the east coast of the Salton Sea. Slab City, or Slabs as the locals call it, was established on the site of what was once Camp Dunlap. Before the United States entered World War II, the military needed a large area to build and train naval ranges and anti-aircraft artillery units, so they took this land from California and built a base here in 1942. Towards the end of the war, the Navy no longer needed the land, so they decommissioned the base, removed the buildings, and returned the land. All that was left were the concrete slabs that once housed the buildings. Slabs, meaning concrete slab, has since been settled by a transient community of mostly socially excluded people. Slab City is completely off-grid. You won't find any city services like running water, electricity, sewage, or garbage. Everyone living in the area needs to bring what they need with them. While not a very livable place, it seems like a unique place to visit. Concrete arrows. Hundreds of giant concrete arrows were discovered in a desert in America in 2013. No one knew what purpose these arrows served until a young couple named Brian and Charlotte Smith took a closer look at them. The couple learned that the arrows were built in the 1920s to guide mail pilots. The arrows were built between 1923 and 1934 for use in the transcontinental airway system. The concrete arrows, which connected the Atlantic and Pacific coasts in 1924, totaled 1,500 in 1933 and covered an area of 30,000 kilometers. It can also be said that the arrows were built as an alternative to today's satellites and GPS. The arrows were later illuminated with giant beacons. The beacons were 40 kilometers apart, and the arrows were painted yellow. Today, most of the beacons are gone. The paint on the remaining arrows has faded, and they sit abandoned in the middle of the desert, waiting to be erased from the face of the earth. An academic journal published reports that the beacons were officially decommissioned in the 1970s. The couple who researched the arrows set up a website on the arrows and their importance. What do you think of these discoveries made in deserts? What else could be hidden under the hot sands? You can share your thoughts with us in the comments. Thank you for your time. See you in the next videos. Goodbye.